Well, maybe they could make it Danny Garcia's mother could be the host.
Oh, that's not nice.
Well, no, she figured prominently in the video they did.
Well, it was her narration. That's right.
Yes, because she left him a voicemail where she gave him like a 2-minute pep talk on life. And they have a video of this bland, boring bowl of oatmeal with no sugar, wearing headphones with mope face on, standing at various public monuments, listening apparently to his mother's inspirational voicemail. And that's I guess that's another way they can try to get him over and fail, because goodness gracious on a Ritz cracker. What?
See, now you need to heal the feud with them, and they do a video where they're in various locations and they're playing their text messages and voicemails, and it's, when can we meet up? Fuck me! Just like all sorts of things like that that take away from all the seriousness.
Hey, there's going to be better in this upcoming match, so I'll tell this story again real quick. I've told it before, but it's been a while. But Tony Schiavone, when he was with Crockett, after he came back from Vince when Turner had bought the company. So it was with Turner. 1990. He's doing a lot of, office work as well as the announcing and et cetera. He's doing some of the paperwork and working with the commissions or this and that, whatever he's doing. He's got him a handheld audio tape recorder that he'll sit in a locker room and he'll like play his notes back, like, call Sting at hotel under name Steve Borden. Check on Sting's rental car. Or call, Anderson under name Lundy. And, check this and that. So we waited until he'd gone out to do one of the TV tapings. And Stan got a hold of his fucking handheld recorder, right? So now we find out later on, several days later, he was at home with his wife, Lois, and I think he had like 8 kids or whatever. He's got a multitude of children. And they were all very young at the time. And he's sitting around the fireplace at his little home in Charlotte, and he's listening to that tape, transcribing his notes. And all of a sudden, a voice comes on. Call Bobby Eaton at hotel under name Eaton, Eaton, suck Bobby's dick. Call Stan Lane under name Lane, Lane, lick Stan's balls. He came out and he said, well, Lois didn't appreciate it.
Gave her some ideas.
Well, I'm not going to say anything about anything like that. Anyway, I'll save another story about Schiavone for a later date. So we had the video of Garcia with the audio from his mom giving him advice. They're stealing. Stealing, as the big cat would say. They're stealing. Well, with Trent's mother has already done an angle. Now it's Danny's mother. I thought, they're all stealing my gimmick. I was the only one that was the mama's boy in the wrestling business.
Well, you did it right. You actually made it work. You can critique these other guys in the way they've used their mamas. You never even had to use your mama. You just had to say your name.
I use your mama. Nobody ever saw my mama.
You just had to say her name.
I just had to talk about her. Didn't even need to show up. For the TNT title, Danny Garcia versus Jack Perry. And at that point, I know that we are 2 hours and 15 minutes into this pay-per-view and 3 hours and 45 minutes with the preview. Or the pre-show or whatever it was. And they get on the floor again, and Knox is the referee again, so you're not going to get any semblance of anything. And at one point early on, old Jungle Jackoff power-bombed Garcia over the railing through a table and then buried him in garbage, which was kind of an apropos there. There's a line there somewhere. And he was there buried in garbage on the floor for a couple minutes without getting counted out for a 10 count. I mean, it's 2 guys that Jungle Jack has driven off more people than he ever brought to begin with, and the whole Punk thing was the end of him because the people that left were like they blamed him, and the people that are still around but remember when it was better blame him. And he's not a badass. He's seen the movie where he's some kind of psycho killer. And a psycho, the first part I'll fucking buy, but not killer.
Were you trying to do the Talking Head song, or those are just noises associated with a psycho killer?
Those were both.
It was not both.
It was a true to life story,
but certainly not the song.
They were writing about the woman that got killed on Love Roller Coaster when the Ohio Players were in the studio next to the woman that was screaming because she was being murdered.
What?
They then wrote the song Psycho Killer about that.
But that's not how that... I don't even know if this story you just told is true, but that's certainly not how the song goes.
You never heard that the Ohio Players on Roller Coaster of Love, say what? You never... one of the screams in there, the urban legend in 1977 or so, was that was the scream from a girl in the studio next door who was killed by a vicious knife-wielding murderer, and her screams were caught on tape. Listen to the song.
I've never heard that, first of all. Second of all, I know that the Talking Heads were not in the studio next to them recording Talking Head 77. I know that.
That's where they stole it from. They recorded the song Psycho Killer about the psycho killer that was next to the studio where the Ohio Players were doing.
I just Googled it, and I have an AI overview supplied by Google. There's an urban legend that a woman was murdered in the studio while the Ohio Players recorded the song Love Roller Coaster for their album Honey.
Say what?
The legend claims that the scream on the track was from Esther Corday, or Cornette, the nude model on the album cover.
Yeah.
Who was stabbed by a band member, manager, or engineer. The legend has many variations, including she was complaining about the honey and fiberglass she was sitting on during the photo shoot, which permanently damaged her legs and ruined her modeling career.
Well, how would that have happened if she got killed? She sat down on the shit and then they killed her.
The honey used in the photo shoot was actually an acrylic substance. Another urban legend is a woman fell off a roller coaster and the scream was captured on tape and added to the recording. And finally, the woman saw a rabbit killed outside the studio during the recording. But it says urban legend.
That one didn't get a lot of traction. Well, that's, it's the mainstream media, Brian. You got to know, you can't believe CNN and NBC and MSNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times and the Atlanta Constitution and CBS News and Time Magazine. You got to go to the real sources, like the people that talk about the woman that got murdered in the studio next to Ohio Players.
Yeah, by the way, how sick would that be? That would be a much bigger story. The woman was murdered. Then what happened? Then they took a nude photo of her and put her on the album cover, covered in honey. And then they put her scream on the title track, or the biggest hit single they ever had.
Well, see, at least it worked out that she was remembered.
All right, so it's been about 9 minutes since we started talking about Garcia versus
Jungle Jack. About 15 minutes into this thing, Perry brings the title belt in, and the referee stands there and stares at him. And Perry gives Garcia the belt and says, hit me with it. And the announcers are saying he doesn't need to win that way. Well, he wouldn't win that way anyway. If he hits him with it in front of the referee ought to disqualify him. But the referee should have disqualified the guy for bringing the fucking object into the ring to begin with, because he's standing there looking at him. So Garcia overacts and is conflicted and then grabs the belt and gives it to the referee. And of course, I mentioned it's the corpse referee, Rick Knox. So instead of just holding it and keeping his eyes on what's going on like a normal human would do, he takes the belt and walks across the ring and is handing it out and he will not turn around so that Perry can then give Danny the nut shot and then a big knee and get a 2 count. So now their balls are invulnerable. He kicked him right in the fucking balls.
What if he doesn't have any?
You got me there.
Then it wouldn't hurt.
And then moments later, the guy who got kicked in the balls, Garcia, gets up and gives Jungle Jack off a pile driver. He gets a 2 count. And then Garcia chops Perry about 15 times over and over, bang, bang, and he's laying him into chops, and Perry's laughing at him. This little weaselly chicken shit motherfucker doesn't realize that if he's going to be a heel, it would be a gold mine for him to quit trying to look like goddamn Bomba the Jungle Boy and be a little pretty boy, dipshit, Hollywood entitled wannabe fucking celebrity trading on his father's fame and begging off from the big mean men that want to beat him up, and he could probably get some fucking heat. But instead, he wants to look like, fucking Ted Nugent in his goddamn Wango Tango period with the hair, and at 168 pounds or whatever, he wants to laugh at people that are beating the shit out of him. And then Garcia pile drove him again and then put him in the sharpshooter. And Perry tapped out. So multiple pile drivers didn't work on either guy, but that sharpshooter, that's some bad shit. They do that because their favorite wrestler did that. So that means it's a more devastating thing than having a hand grenade shoved up your ass with the pin pulled. I don't worry about that, but the sharpshooter. So Garcia is the new champion of whatever the fuck they were going for there.
Again, I've been saying it over and over. This match went way too long. The crowd was not into it for a variety of reasons, including the people in this. Got a nice pop at the end when Garcia finally won, but I think a lot of these pops, too, were like, they were happy the match was over. And
yes, relief pop.
For every complaint you've made over the years about various guys in AEW, Orange Cassidy's still there. A lot of people that aren't even there anymore. They're cosplay wrestlers, they play wrestlers. I don't think there's anyone that exemplifies that more than Jack Perry because of the gimmick. If you took this gimmick, and I'll use a name I used months ago when talking about Jack Perry stuff, if you put it on Nick Camarado or a big guy where they're talking shit while they're getting beat up and they're driving around in a fucking shitty van and they're talking gibberish like they're fucking Raven about sacrificing something for whoever for no good reason, it would be something.
Somebody intimidating.
When it's someone smaller than the average listener's kids, there's a problem. Again, if he was going to be a chicken shit heel the same way Adam Cole should be, that's one thing. Give him a valet, let him be a chicken shit. But I guess that's not cool enough. Instead, he has to be something he clearly isn't. And also what he isn't is over. No one gives a shit. And I think Daniel Garcia, and it's kind of the underlying story of the show. Daniel Garcia here, Wheeler Yuta later. AEW has doubled down and tripled down on these two guys that came in around the same time that have not picked up any muscle mass, any size, they haven't filled out. And because people there like them, they're used in roles they're not ready for and that people aren't going to take to them in. Garcia has a little bit of grace with the fans. It can run out real quickly. His promos they're not for me, I'll say that. They're not, and again, he's another really small guy. He looks bigger because he's in there with a guy like Jack Perry, but he's another skinny, slim guy with no muscle mass. So I think that's, they just signed him to the deal. That's why I thought he was going to win, and he did.
You could get a little wiry 140-pound motherfucker that if he was nuts, you'd believe he'd try to gouge your eyes out, but this fucking inoffensive little milquetoast motherfucker is just, what? No. He's acting like Bruiser Brody. He's not as tough as Howard Brody.
Now.
Now, yeah. Howard could still take you, you little prick.
Or at least talk you to sleep.
Well, one or the other. You might pray for relief. He might read you 1992 from his notes.
But again, there's a difference between Garcia, who at least the fans have kind of gotten behind at times, and he's a little bit bigger than Jack Perry, who it kind of worked as Jungle Boy, although they did not do everything right and it did not go all the way, because the character was that he was a little Jungle Boy.
You get a little baby face, you get sympathy. But what is the scapegoat and what is his fixation on the transportation?
And by the way, he's the scapegoat. Why did he come out in a goat mask? Is there any reason that the scapegoat, like, they call me a scapegoat, I'll dress like a goat? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I don't think he understands the meaning of the word scapegoat. But also, why does the scapegoat, who's from Hollywood and had a TV star, a movie star father, have to drive around in a black painted used bread truck? See, that's it. It's just because it's cool for him to drive up in it and they can hit it with things and everything, but it doesn't make any sense and it's never explained.
See, that's a move for some heel to do a good promo. Like MJF a couple years ago would have been like prime guy to do the promo. You know, you all got a problem with me because I flash the fact that I make money and I drive fancy cars. All these posers in the locker room, Moxley, Jack Perry, Darby, they're all millionaires and they're pretending that they're slumming it. Get out of here. Be yourselves. Put on a tuxedo.